The streets of Iran are on fire, the negotiations have collapsed, and somewhere in the Arabian Sea, an American aircraft carrier just got a warning it may not survive. That wasn't a metaphor. That was a direct threat broadcast live on Iranian state television aimed at the most powerful naval force on Earth. And just days after those words left his mouth, Iran sent a drone directly at a U.S. carrier. Then fast boats tried to seize an American fuel tanker. Then a missile was test-fired into the Strait of Hormuz. Then the protests reignited. Then the nuclear talks collapsed. This isn't saber-rattling anymore. Everything is converging. What's coming next could change the world forever. Here's what nobody is connecting right now. Let's start with something that every Western news outlet is completely ignoring. Right now, Iran is not just threatening the United States militarily. Iran is simultaneously burning from the inside, and the two things, the internal collapse and the external aggression, are not separate stories. They are the same story. Here's the history lesson that makes this terrifying. In 1978, the Shah of Iran faced protests in the streets. Security forces killed demonstrators. Then something happened that nobody expected. 40 days later, because of a Shia Islamic mourning tradition, those mourners came back to the streets. Bigger, louder, angrier. Security forces killed more of them. 40 days passed. Even bigger crowds, more killings. This cycle repeated for over 13 months until the Shah had no choice but to flee the country in February 1979. The entire regime collapsed not because of a military defeat, but because of a 40-day cycle of death and protest that nobody could stop. Fast forward to today. On January 8th and 9th, the Iranian regime massacred tens of thousands of its own citizens during the latest wave of protests. We are now approaching exactly 40 days since those massacres. The mourning period is ending, and right on schedule, just like 1979, the crowds are back. In the city of Abadan, small groups gathered chanting death to the dictator. By morning, the cemeteries were packed. Families came to mourn and stayed to protest. The URG showed up with rifles and started shooting at people standing over graves. In Mashhad, Iran's second-largest city, URG soldiers on motorcycles carrying rifles patrolled every major road. In Tehran, the capital, water cannons and black military vans filled the central square. The supreme leader knows what this pattern means. He lived through it once before. He watched the Shah fall, and now he is watching it happen again to himself. And here's the part that makes this dangerous beyond anything we've seen before. A leader who is watching his regime collapse from the inside doesn't negotiate, he doesn't back down, he escalates, he does something dramatic to unify the country against an external enemy. He points his people toward a foreign threat so they stop looking at him, that external threat. 3 U.S. aircraft carriers sitting in the Arabian Sea. On February 3rd, Iran made its move. The USS Abraham Lincoln, a U.S. Navy supercarrier carrying some of the most advanced aircraft on the planet, was transiting the Arabian Sea, approximately 500 miles from Iran's southern coast. It had been deployed after the January protests began. A direct message from Washington to Tehran: "We are watching." Iran decided to send a message back. A single Iranian Shah drone launched and flew directly toward the Abraham Lincoln. The U.S. military tracked it the entire way. Warnings were issued. The drone kept coming. And then the United States sent something Iran almost certainly did not expect: an F-35C Joint Strike Fighter. The drone was gone in an instant. No contest. No drama. The most advanced fighter jet in the world versus a remote-controlled aircraft. But here's the thing, and this is what the mainstream coverage is completely missing. Iran didn't send that drone because they thought it would work. Iran sent that drone to measure the American response, to find out how long it takes the U.S. to react, which aircraft get scrambled, what direction they come from, how close a threat can get before it gets neutralized. That drone was a reconnaissance mission disguised as a provocation. Iran spent 500 miles of flight time collecting data on the USS Abraham Lincoln's defense posture. And on the exact same day, while everyone's eyes were on the drone, Iran sent armed Revolutionary Guard fast boats into the Strait of Hormuz and attempted to seize a U.S. military fuel tanker called the Stena Imperative. The boats were carrying .50 caliber machine guns and small drones. They hailed the tanker and threatened to board it. A second probe, a second data collection mission, this time testing how quickly the U.S. could get a guided missile destroyer to the location, testing response times, testing commitment, testing whether America would blink. That same week, Iran fired a ballistic missile into the Strait of Hormuz targeting their own empty vessel and broadcast it nationally. 3 military provocations in 72 hours, each one testing a different layer of American defense, each one collecting a different piece of intelligence. This is not the behavior of a country trying to avoid conflict. This is a country building a targeting package. Here's where it gets dark, and I need you to stay with me because this is where all the pieces connect. Iran's Shahed 139 or the Shahed 129, depending on which intelligence source you believe, has a range of over 1,200 miles and can carry a payload approaching 900 pounds, a single drone. Now multiply that. Iran has been manufacturing these drones at an industrial scale. We saw what Iranian drones did. In Ukraine, we saw what a swarm of them can do when they hit infrastructure simultaneously from multiple angles. The F-35C that shot down Iran's lone drone on February 3rd is extraordinary Mach 1.6 stealth capability, the best air-to-air missiles money can buy. But it is one aircraft, and the Abraham Lincoln can only have so many F-35Cs in the air at any given moment. A coordinated drone swarm launched simultaneously from multiple vectors, combined with ballistic missiles from Iranian soil, combined with fast attack boat interference in the Strait of Hormuz that is a layered, saturating attack designed to overwhelm point defenses. Military analysts have war-gamed this scenario. The outcome is not guaranteed in America's favor. And now consider this. Iran told the U.S. after the Geneva talks collapsed that they would have a new proposal in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that number has a very specific history. Iran is now using Trump's own timeline back against him. They're asking for 2 weeks, the same window Trump used right before he launched a military strike on Iran. Whether that's intentional psychological warfare or a genuine coincidence, it doesn't matter. What matters is what happens inside those 2 weeks. Because right now, a second U.S. aircraft carrier has arrived in the region. Reports indicate a third is on its way. More than 50 American fighter jets have repositioned into striking range of Iran in just the last 24 hours. This armada is not there for diplomacy. This armada is there because someone at the highest levels of the U.S. military believes a strike is coming or needs to be ready to launch one. And Iran's supreme leader, a man who has watched his own people turn against him in the streets, a man whose nuclear negotiating position was publicly humiliated in Geneva, a man who responded to Trump's aircraft carrier by threatening to drag it to the bottom of the sea. That man is not going to quietly accept a deal that strips him of his nuclear program, his missile program, and his ability to kill his own protesters. Khamenei said it himself just days before the drone incident. A regional war, not a contained military exchange, not a single strike and a diplomatic resolution. A regional war, which means Hezbollah activating in Lebanon, Houthi missile campaigns in the Red Sea intensifying, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria striking U.S. bases simultaneously. Every proxy Iran has spent 40 years building activated at once. This is the WW3 scenario that defense planners have been quietly discussing for years, and every single indicator right now is pointing toward it. The nuclear talks in Geneva ended in hours. Iran offered to pause enrichment for 3 years, not stop it, not dismantle it, just pause it. They offered to transfer some of their enriched uranium to Russia, not all of it, not permanently, just some. They flatly refused to discuss their missile program. They refused to address the mass killing of protesters. Iran is currently sitting on 200 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%. For context, nuclear power plants need 3 to 5% enrichment. Nuclear weapons need 90%. Iran is at 60%. They are not building a power plant. They are building a bomb, and the bomb is almost finished. That is a man who has already made his decision. The negotiation is theater. The 2-week delay is a clock, and the drone, the fast boats, the missile test, the carrier threats, those are the opening moves of something much larger. Here's what history tells us. The 40-day protest cycle that destroyed the Shah took 13 months to complete. We are at the beginning of that cycle right now as those protests grow, and they will grow because the URG cannot shoot every mourner in every cemetery across every city in Iran forever. The supreme leader will face an impossible choice: negotiate with the United States from a position of internal weakness, or attack American forces and give his people an external enemy to rally against. Every historical precedent, every military signal, every piece of diplomatic body language says he's going to choose option 2, 3 aircraft carriers, 50 fighter jets, a missile that can drag a carrier to the bottom of the sea, a 40-day mourning cycle almost complete, a nuclear program days away from weapons grade, and A supreme leader with his back against the wall. This is not a crisis that resolves peacefully. This is a countdown. The only question is how many days are left on the clock. Stay subscribed, because when this breaks, and it will break, you'll want to have been watching from the beginning.